Hey guys, it's me, author SC Vincent. I have been away for a while. I've been pretty busy because I got a promotion at work. Um, so I've been focusing a lot on trying to get published and just work and surviving the promotion and all that kind of stuff. Things are going well now, so I'm trying to get back into releasing some videos. Um, and just working on the marketing aspect. So I thought I would come in today with with a video with some updates and a few kind of a mixture of things, kind of a book review and recent book pickups and just what I've been doing with publishing in the background. Um, so first, I'm gonna talk about a book I finished reading recently. It is, let's see here, Vampire Hunter D, Volume 6, Pilgrimage of the Sacred and the Profane. Um, I love this book series. It's one of my favorites. Um, you may have heard of the series or the anime adaptation, Vampire Hunter D, especially Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust. Uh, it's a series basically where you have the main character's name is D. He's a Dhampir, so he's a half vampire, half demon. I mean, half vampire, half human. So this one is the sixth in the series, and it's about how he is set upon a journey to cross a desert, and he meets a group of people along the way, and he has to protect them. I guess I'll read the back of book blurb. These are a pain to write, by the way. Okay, so the cruel desert between the inner and outer frontiers has a mind and heart of its own. Granny Viper is a people finder, a searcher for lost souls along the roads of the forbidding wasteland of 12,090 AD. Her latest mission, the safe return to her family of an the safe return to her family of an abductee, a young woman named Tay, kidnapped 8 years ago by vampire nobility and held in Castle Grandinia, on the far border of the frontiers. Rescuing Tay was only half the battle. Viper knows she can't make the rest of the journey with the girl across a formidable expanse to the town of Barnabas alone. But the wizened crone makes a fatal mistake in hiring the mercenary Bullo brothers to help her. And when she turns to the legendary vampire hunter D for salvation, the two women and D find themselves in a race for their lives across the blinding desert sands. So, I guess there'll be some spoilers here. Uh, so, the desert itself that they have to cross to get Tay to her family is actually a living sentient being. Um, it was created by people to fight against nobility, and essentially, its purpose is to drive. It's seeking D to come into it and to kill it because it hates living forever. Um, and you find throughout like the entirety of the grand scope of the plot for D's side of the story is that it's his father, um, the great vampire, or rather Dracula. They never really drop the name, but that's how you know who it is. Um, was teaching D a lesson is that if you continue on this path of being a vampire hunter, and even searching for me, you'll never escape. You'll end up possibly just like that desert, just living forever and seeking only death, and that's the only thing that awaits you. Um, but there's another thing that D finds at the end is that he finds that Tay, the girl who was abducted by a vampire, she was also and that vampire was also friends with Dee's father. Um, and they did experiments on her, and Dee's father impregnated her. So he finds that although death is also um, death is something that he's always going to be around, he finds that there's also life to protect. Um, so that's kind of the positive aspect of the story, is that he finds something to protect, something, even though there's always death around. If that makes any sense of my thoughts on the grander aspect of the plot. There's a lot of characters, but they all, I guess there's another spoiler is that they all die. Um, but they're all good. They start off like really rough, like kind of mean, but they that development that makes them kind of better characters. They become better people. Unfortunately, they do die, but it's kind of a shame because you think, they develop it to have these side characters with Tay have some romance with a nice guy and whatever, but no, she ends up alone at the end. There's not as much action in this book compared to the previous ones. Where there is this cool final showdown at the end. It's kind of like the good, the bad, and the ugly final showdown in that Clint Eastwood movie. So it's definitely, I would say, a good read. I would recommend it. So this is what am I supposed to give it a score? I don't know, I guess a 4 out of 5. Yeah, it's worth checking out. If you like it, it's worth reading. If you like that book series. So that's kind of, it's I think the worst book of these that I've read so far. I don't actually know which is the worst one. I don't think I liked the second one that much, but I would have to go back. So that's kind of the book review section. The pickup section of the book I recently got. And so I collect a lot of different series. I collect Vampire Hunter D. Another series that I collect is The Wizard of Oz. Now these books, I've read the first couple books of these, and I think they're really cool, imaginative, and unique. And they really, like, there's something special to them. So I like collecting them, especially the physical versions, because they're very ornate, fanciful and all that. So I've collected. I'm on to book 11, The Lost Princess of Oz. I know it's a children's book and whatever, but I don't really care if I'm buying children's books. Still cool. Maybe I'll have a kid one day and I'll read it to my kid. But I enjoy them too. So that's the book I've got recently. These books cost so I get the what's it called? Books of Wonder releases. I think most of these are in the public domain, so you could get any version you want. But I like this version because these are kind of like the more official releases, and they're pretty high quality as well. And it's a nice set you can collect, and it's a nice kind of color across your bookshelf. So that's kind of why I like to get it. And I don't really personally, I don't really like digital books. So I'm excited to read that one. That's the most recent book that I picked up. What else have I done? So we'll go here. Look at the desktop. So this is the Goodreads page for Vampire Hunter D. I'm not logged in right now, but generally people kind of give it the same score as well. It does have an interesting prose style, very much kind of like a light novel or Japanese writing style. So it's not something that you're gonna find, you know, other like in Western writing. Maybe you might find it nowadays, because a lot of people are getting more inspired by the Japanese, narrative, and structure and writing styles. But um, the other thing I did today was that I saw a fellow author on X or Twitter, named Gregory Michael. He had, I hate saying that he had, that sounds so improper. He went and found something called little free libraries. And this is where people just kind of pop up these things in front of, I don't know, I guess, their homes or their neighborhoods or libraries and or schools, and they put in they drop off books, or you can drop off a book and take a book. And I mean, instead of just like instead of throwing them away, it's a good way to kind of place your book. So I found this one. Let's see if it'll load. Let's see if I can zoom in. No, it doesn't work that way. So this is what it looked like when I went there. A lot of people. There seemed to have been a lot of books there already. So I don't know how many people in this area are even reading or know what this is. But I filled it up a little bit. You see that I dropped off a couple books, but I couldn't. Look, I tried reading Gene Wolfe, Shadow and Claw, but it was a little too much for me. What I just could, I spent too much time trying to figure out what was happening rather than enjoying what I was reading. What I could understand, I did enjoy, but I had to, I like easier to read books, but I guess that's another review. So I dropped off the only proof copy I had left of the Sakura Element, which is coming up for about its 1 year anniversary in a couple days. Maybe I'll do something for that. I don't know. But so I dropped off, like I said, a proof copy, and so anybody who's interested can take a read, and for free, just pick it up like that. This was, I believe, like the last proof version where I approved it, so there was nothing wrong with this version. It's just been sitting on my desk for about a year now, so I just gave it away. Yeah, so I think the idea of these free little free libraries is pretty cool and unique. If you're actually around people who read. I did notice that, I don't know if you look at the actual books in here, there's not a lot of. I think most of these books are books that kids are forced to read by their schools, and then after they're done reading, they just throw them in here, because a lot of these are books like that. They're just fiction. They're not genre fiction. They're not fun books at all, a lot of them. So I was kind of surprised at the lack of science fiction and fantasy in here when I took a look. And I can't say I'm surprised. Like, kids don't enjoy dry fiction most of the time. That's like what schools make them read. Now, I mean, it can be a good book and well written, but kids enjoy kind of high stakes and fantastical elements to read for fun. If you're trying to get them to read to study, I mean, that's what you would get around here. It's just like this fiction stuff. But I don't know why schools make them read that stuff. I mean, it's not going to make them want to read, or it's not even going to make them smarter, or challenge them. I mean, you can challenge people in genre fiction. Genre fiction, like fantasy and sci-fi, just wraps a interesting or compelling moral idea or a challenging idea in kind of a fanciful wrapping paper. In my opinion, that's what it does. It's like you watch. It's like if you were to watch an episode of Star Trek, and it's talking about the morality of suicide, or the morality of race relations, or all kinds of things, especially in the original series. And it's doing that in this where you have people shooting lasers at each other in space, and it's like, oh, this is like the Cold War or World War II or whatever, just in space. And kids kind of get the meaning of it, because it's presented to them in a certain way, with that kind of fanciful wrapping paper, I guess is what I was saying. And I guess when parents think everything needs to be presented to them as kind of a down to earth, dry thing, so they can relate to it, the kids have imaginations. They want to read. They want to go places. They want to think of unicorns. They want to think of spaceships. They don't want to think of, the bully down the street and how they can relate to that kid getting bullied. Unless they get superpowers and are able to beat him up, like Spider-Man or something. So that's kind of. I didn't really think about talking about that today, but. So what have I been doing in publishing recently? So a couple weeks ago, I recorded a podcast. My first time ever being on a podcast, and it's called Booked. Let me see if I can pull it up on the desktop. Yeah. So I did I did this podcast by Booked, the official podcast for Idiosyncrasy. Sorry, I can't pronounce things very well. So I'm gonna be on this show probably sometime this summer. I recorded it in March, or February, but it's not going to be out, of course, till later on, because they record things ahead of time. So if you want to check it out, I would say follow Booked Pod and go to idiosyncrasy.com, where I think I'm on here. Last I checked, I was. Yeah, I have a page here, which kind of shows off all my books and links and everything. And I'm going to have a feature on this too, I think probably in fall, where it's going to be a big interview and all that kind of great stuff. So it was an interesting thing to do, the podcast. She was, the interviewer was very nice, and she really helped me out. I was very nervous, but hopefully she makes the podcast. She edits it very well, because I was, it definitely showed how nervous I was. So it might be a pretty short episode. It might be a lot of cutting, but I kind of was just spouting nonsense, to be honest with you. But it was the first time, so yeah, that's one thing I'm trying to do, is to get around to do a bit more marketing. I'm doing this YouTube, and I want to get out to other YouTube stuff. So if anybody would like to have me to come on their show, to do something, I would definitely consider it. But remember, I'm a little green, so that's something I've done recently. In terms of publishing, what I've done is, so of course I signed that publishing contract a couple months ago for a short story, and it'll be coming out. In my opinion, it'll probably be coming out in summer, based on how fast things are going. It's for Hellbound Books. I wrote this down. It's for the Splatterpunk 2 anthology. And recently, the only reason I don't know for sure when it's coming out, but the reason why, because the reason why I think it's coming out then is because they recently came with the edits. So when you get a publisher, they'll edit your work. They'll send you the edits, and you're supposed to either just approve them, or implement them, or if you disagree with some of them, just say I don't think this one is good, and here's why. And depending on how agreeable or workable your publisher is, things can either take a while or things can go smooth. For me, when the edits they came back with were reasonable. Like, for example, originally the story was called The Darkly Demise of Dean Dunn. One of their suggestions was using the word darkly is not grammatically correct, so it's going to be called The Dark Demise of Dean Dunn, and that's like 100% fine. So it's just a name of the title. And for me, it was mostly, I liked the word darkly because it's a weird word, but the alliteration is kind of key because it helps set the mood for the comedic effect of like the black comedy of the story, of the horror story. So there wasn't really too many changes other than that. So I think, of course, it depends on on the other people in the anthology, how difficult it is to edit them, and what the release schedule is for all the books for that publisher. I don't know that information, but I don't see why it would take too long to release that. I'll know more eventually, and I'll inform you then. Anything else? So I have a book that I'm trying to still get published called Blessings of the Damned. I think I've spoken about this before. It's a novella series. I'm not really any closer to getting it published in a traditional sense. I'm gonna wait a little bit longer before I start making my own moves before I self-publish it, because it's with some smaller indie pubs that are taking a look at it right now. But yeah, I'm kind of really done with the whole traditional publishing thing. It's like I'm just sitting on books and book ideas, holding off on writing because I'm waiting to get approval from people I don't even know, and and these people, well, they don't really judge your work. They judge mostly like what's your race and your gender, and that's how they determine if your book gets released, and also if you're writing about race and gender. So I'm kind of tired of just being gatekept from publishing, and like there's no reason to do that anymore because it's 2025. I can just release it any way I want. The only benefit I see and am searching for in publishing with someone else would be for them to pay for certain stuff, to kind of take that off my back, because I've never made a profit from releasing my books, because you have to invest your own money. I never got that money back because I just don't make that much from it. And that would be the other thing, is that hopefully they would have some sort of good source of getting my books into people's hands, which isn't something I have either. But if it seems like I'm just not the type of writer that appeals to publishers, and that's kind of, I guess, been a hard pill to swallow. But if that's just how it is, it's how it is, I'm not going to let my creativity be stifled uh, because of other people. Um, Even if my books aren't good, I'm still, it's still part of me, my creativity, my art. I'm not going to let that die just because of other people. Um, you know, uh, Anything else? I've also been thinking about crowdfunding. Eventually, I've noticed that some people are starting to crowdfund novels, or have been doing it, and it's a bit more uh, helpful and profitable. It helps get the word around to certain readers. Um, I mean, I guess the only difficult aspect of it is, if you don't get it met, if you don't get that goal met, um, I would definitely have to have some, there's some, because there's some investment that you have to put in. It's like, okay, with that money, it's like, okay, I need a certain amount of money to do, like, get the book art, to get barcodes, to get formatting, things like that. Um, it's a difficult thing to consider, but it's something down the line for a certain book I have to rewrite eventually, anyways. Um, but yeah, so I mean, things are progressing in the background. So for Blessings of the Damned, if I would say by May there hasn't been any progress, I'm just gonna move on my own, uh, and I'm just gonna, in terms of writing new material this year, I've kind of said to myself I'm gonna take the year off in terms of writing new material, because like I said, I mean, I'm already releasing a short story. I like to say I release something once a year. So if I don't release like a novel or a novella this year, I'll at least have a short story released. And then next year I could release Blessings of the Damned. It just depends on how I feel. But I feel like right now what I need to do is really study, like writing craft, and read a lot of other great writers, authors, and kind of absorb that in so I can put that into my own work. That's what I'm trying to do. I think the next book I'm going to try to read, this doesn't mean I'm going to read it. I don't know. Like, I don't know if I'm going to like it or not. Is Spring Snow, by Yukio Mishima. I don't know how to pronounce. I'm not good at pronouncing stuff. I'm gonna try reading that, um, but there's not a guarantee I'll like it or anything. I don't know yet. But it's also a Japanese author. Um, so I guess that's about it for now. Um, so I guess I'll see you next time.